will hold you don't make a bracha if you're not sure, but for sure it needs Tevilah. Okay, yes.
People don't buy them with their Kiddush cups.
If it's a Kiddush cup bought from a Jewish company through a Jewish distributor, I don't think it needs Tevilah. Unless you have reason to suspect it was sold by a non-Jew along the way, but otherwise I don't think it would need it. Kli hamiyutzu v'esach hadesh, the vessel that was manufactured in a factory. Hakone kli shenat v'esach hadesh shel Yehudi. If someone buys a vessel that was made in a Jewish-owned factory, ein tzarich l'tavla, does not need tevilah. Af ma'pelim him nachem. Even if the workers, the employees, are not Jewish, it doesn't matter because it goes about the ownership. V'chein lehepach kli shenat v'esach hadesh shel nachem. A vessel that's made in a factory owned by non-Jews, tzarich tevilah, needs tevilah. Af ma'pelim him Yehudim, even if the workers are Jewish. That specifically if you bought the vessel from a Jewish merchant. If someone buys a vessel from a chenveni, from a merchant that's a non-Jew, then you do have to tevel it. Even if it was made in a Jewish-owned factory, if it became owned by a non-Jew, again, along the chain of command, yes, even the chain of distribution, it would need tevilah. Even if it was made in a Jewish-owned factory, it's also sold in a Jewish-owned factory, which is the sitanoi refers to the distributor. That's what it means. The distributor who buys from the factory, from the manufacturer, to sell to the stores. If that distributor is not Jewish, then the distributor, the non-Jew, owned the vessel at some point along the chain of command of distribution. Since there was a non-Jew that owned it, then when the Jew buys it, there's a chiyuv of tevilah. Adayin chayim b'tevilah kibol l'shut shel nachri, because it still needs tevilah because it came into the reshut of a nachri. We have a klal in halacha. When in doubt, leave it out. Sofik berachis lahakil. If we're not sure whether or not we're going to have to make a bracha on something, we do the act, but without the bracha, because we don't want to be moitzi shem shemaim levatol. We don't want to say Hashem's name in vain. So klishi yesh leistapik bayim noitzi veis chalishes Yehudi einachris, a vessel where we have a doubt. Was it made in a Jewish-owned factory or a non-Jewish-owned factory? We're not sure. So how do we handle that situation? It does happen, right? We don't always know all the facts. We can't always backtrack, so to speak, the entire level of distribution, the distribution chain and all that. So you have to tevel as a suffix without a bracha. Even if most of the factories in this particular country are Jewish owned, the same thing would be with regards to glass. Even though glass, what's the chiddush over here? Even though glass, the chiyuv of tefillah is only rabbinic because glass has similar properties to that of metal, still, when we have a doubt, we still have to tevel the glass, albeit without a bracha, okay, because it's a doubt. If it comes from a country, if a vessel is manufactured in a country which is mostly non-Jewish, for example, Japan or China, then it needs to deal with a bracha, because one can say most likely it was owned by a non-Jew. A vessel that comes from a country that's mostly non-Jews, even though there are some factories owned by Jews, you should still make a bracha. This whole idea of a suffix, we're not sure whether or not it was owned by a non-Jew, is only if the sitinoi balachanus, if the distributor and the storekeeper, the one who's selling the actual product to the consumer, are Jewish. Then you have a doubt. What happened before then, in the higher level of command, the chain of command, so to speak, right? Was there someone that was not Jewish owning it? We don't know. But if if either the distributor or the actual end-use seller, the storekeeper, are not Jewish, then then you for sure have to make a bracha bevadi, as I said before, because then we know for sure it was owned by a non-Jew at some point. Any questions? And a kli chai betvila achis mishus hanocha because of shus Yisrael. The vessel is not mechayiv in tvila until it leaves the Jew's possession. I'm sorry, I said it in the reverse. Until it leaves the non-Jew's possession, and it becomes ushered into the Jew's possession. If someone borrows a vessel from a non-Jew or rents it, you're allowed to use it without teveling because it's not a Jewish-owned vessel. Of course, we're talking about a vessel that we know is kosher. It's a separate matter. Make sure it's like if you borrow, let's say, a brand new vessel from a non-Jew, you know the vessel's kosher because it's brand new, was never used. But you also don't have a chiyuv of tefillah because it's owned by a non-Jew. If someone buys the vessel from a non-Jew, then he loans it to his friend. Also, this Jew is not allowed to use the vessel without teveling, because the vessel now has an obligation to be teveled because it is now owned by a Jewish person. Is that clear? Any questions? It's actually, just to distill it down to one bullet point. If the vessel was ever owned by a non-Jew at some point in the chain of distribution or manufacturing, there's a chiyuv of teveling the vessel with a bracha. If you have reason to doubt, you're not sure, then you tevel without a bracha. If the vessel is owned by a non-Jew, even if it's being used by a Jew, it does not need tevilah, period. Those are the 3 points. Those are the takeaways. Yeah.
We still buy things in Israel, but it doesn't say the company. So is it like Israel?
If it's made in Israel, you can assume that it was, and it's sold. If it's sold by a Jewish company and made in Israel, I don't think you have to title it because it is Jewish owned. If it's not made in Israel, not necessarily. Okay, what happens if we're a guest by someone's home and they keep kosher, but they didn't title their vessels? What do we do? If we become for a guest by someone's home who did not table the vessels, we're not supposed to use vessels that were not toiveled. Because we're not supposed to use a vessel. Now we turn to the top of page Kofalid 104. Before it's toiveled. And by eating from it, you're using it. I asked how to actually navigate this. So there's a difference, according to at least one halachic authority, there's a difference in a case of duress, if a person's really, really stuck, there's a difference between a solid food and a liquid food. What do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, I have a bowl, and it's holding an apple, right? It's a fruit bowl, right? And it's made out of metal. The apple could really hold its own body without the vessel itself. So the vessel's not really holding the apple because the apple is a solid. So there's more room to be lenient. But when it comes to a liquid, the liquid is being totally held by the vessel. It's a more strict type of situation. Okay. Yeah.
Let me go into someone's house and use that. They always heard that you can use glass things. So even if they're not toilet, you can use them. Or
There's two separate things here. There's a halacha regarding kashrus, which I think we learned, but I'll review it because it relates to your question. There are three opinions as to whether or not glass absorbs. I'm not talking about tefillah now, I'm talking about kashrus. Actually, does become asur. One opinion holds it absorbs, it's like pottery and canola, it's like earthenware. Canola can never be kosher. That's a very strict opinion. There's another opinion that says it could be kosher. It does absorb, could be kosher. And there's a third opinion, it's the opposite spectrum. It says it doesn't even absorb. So many Sfardim hold like this lenient opinion, hold that glass does not absorb. And therefore, you could use glass anywhere because it doesn't become not kosher. Ashkenazim, a lot of them take the middle road opinion. It says it does absorb, it has to be kosher. Some people avoid koshering glass for Pesach because of the more strict opinion. Okay, now, but regarding Tevila, we just said glass is analogous and similar to that of metal. Just like metal needs Tevila, and metal you can melt down, so too glass could be crushed up and then refired up. So it would need Tevila. It would need Tevila. There is a myth that says I'm allowed to use a vessel one time without table in it. I call that mysticism. Why? Because this that we say that you're allowed to use a one-time vessel without tithing refers to a throwaway vessel. Because halacha says such a vessel does not have the chashivas of a vessel, because I'm not really buying it, I'm not acquiring it for keepsake, so to speak. I'm just buying it for convenience. There's no attachment to it. But if it's a vessel that does have an attachment, it's a real vessel, a bona fide vessel that I'm going to keep, one is not supposed to use it one time without tabling it. If one did use it, the food is still kosher to eat, as long as it's a kosher vessel. But one's not supposed to use it without tabling.
So when you go to like a bar and you want to drink like a glass of water,
It's permissible if the glass is clean.
if the glass,
Yes. You just have to look out for and be mindful to avoid something sharp, such as a slice of lemon, a slice of lime, because we don't know what else was used to cut on that knife. It could, if they cut something, let's say hot, not kosher, and they're cutting a sharp food, that creates a kashrus problem. But if you're not getting anything sharp, it's permissible to use a glass vessel. So cold, on a temper, as long as it's not sitting there for 24 hours, which is not going to be, because if you're sitting there for 24 hours, you have other problems. So it's not a problem, it's permissible. And in fact, I'll share something interesting with you. Many hechsherim allow, when they do event, let's say they're going to a hotel, they're going to do, let's say, a kosher event in a hotel. So the caterer would come in with their dishes, with their silverware, whatever, and flash the kitchen, or bring their own kitchen. They will allow the use of glasses that have been cleaned for the use of cold things such as soft drinks for the event, because it's cold, and there's an opinion that says glass doesn't absorb, but anyways, it's only being used cold on a temporary basis. So there's what to allow for that reason. Yeah. Any questions? Okay.
wait, so if you go to, I don't know, Airbnb, you can use the cup, like glasses.
You can use the glass cup for cold for sure. For hot, it's proper to avoid, unless someone's a Sfardi who holds a glass does not absorb. Then they can do it. Yes. Okay, what about we buy, I'll just share with you a little bit of a little memory I have. Today, I think the Snapple drinks come in plastic bottles. They used to come in glass bottles. I'm sure you remember that. So there was a lady, her name was Wendy. I don't know if she still does it. Her name was Wendy. She worked for Snapple. She called herself the Snapple lady. She was a Jewish woman. And the OK certifies the kosher Snapple, drinks. Not all of them are kosher, but whatever are kosher, we certify them. So she had come to the office a few times. She had this old car that was totally what they call silk screened, all Snapple. It was a full splash. It was just a sight to see. And she was a very colorful personality. She was like an advertisement for the product. Anyway, so their motto is made from the best stuff on earth. Every company is sales marketing. It's just basically what it is. It's iced tea with some sugar in it. But anyway, so when you buy this, you're buying, it comes in a glass bottle. So the glass needs Tevilas. So what do we do about that? Let's say I'm buying something, or it could be something else. I'm buying a salsa. It's a glass jar. I don't have to, you're not obligated to empty the contents from the vessel and tevel it. Some and yeshetil aflach leiser machem techon sinsenes asmas. Some so you can even use the vessel itself. Why? Because you're not buying the vessel, you're buying the contents, and the way in which the contents are delivered is through the vessel. After the vessel, after the product has been emptied from the vessel, after it's already been emptied out from there, then one's not allowed to use it again without toiveling it. Some say you could use a glass vessel again, since it's only rabbinic in nature. Like metal, they certainly should not be lenient. But you can ask a shaila by Rav in that case. But if someone's going to adopt these vessels and use them, they should table them. There is an opinion that says something very interesting. It's very interesting. I would call it the logic here. When I buy, let's say, for example, let's say I'm buying a jar of salsa. I'm paying, let's say, $3.50 for the salsa. The company is selling me the salsa. Happens to be that they're using a glass jar to deliver it to me. After I finish using the salsa, then I decide that I'm going to take off the label and wash out the glass and use it. So there's a school of thought that says that by doing that, I'm actually making it into a vessel now, because until now it was just a delivery vessel for the salsa. It was a salsa. So it wasn't used a vessel just for anything. It was just for salsa. So some opinions say that because the vessel was bottled to the food, because you're paying for the food. There's a school of thought some have. In such a case, it's definitely better to table without a bracha, for sure. Now, where to table a vessel has to be tabled in a kosher mikvah or in a wellspring, in a mayan. Ketzat table in a sakli, tzrichin latva sakli b'mayan b'mikvah. If the table a vessel in a mayan or a mikvah, Shir Abraham said that has the size, the shear of 40 sok, making yichalit lakel mayam. You can also table vessels in the ocean. In order for the tefillah to be valid, the water has to envelop all parts of the vessel from the inside and the outside. You have to clean it before the tefillah from any dirt or any rust. So it shouldn't come to be a barrier between the water and the vessel. If someone will table without cleaning it, if it's the type of barrier, something that will makbid not to have there, it becomes a chatzitza that makes the tefillah not kosher, not valid. If it's something that we're not makbid on, does not make the tefillah not valid. If someone removed the rust and all that remains is just a shinei mara means, let's say, a staining of the metal, that's not a chatzitza. If there's a little bit of rust that's remaining, that cannot be removed. Someone can tell even chatchila, because a person that normally would not be makbid on this. Halacha Lamed Ches. What about stickers that are on a vessel? You go to Target and buy yourself a pot, $5.99. You want to remove that sticker because you're not interested in telling the whole world of how much you paid for this pot. So before the tefillah, we have to remove any sticker that's stuck to it. And also to remove any glue that remains. Because that's also called a chatzitza. However, there are other types of stickers that carry a different purpose, a different function. Their purpose is to display the value of the vessel. It's not the derech to remove them. For example, let's say a type of sticker you put on an expensive piece of crystal. It's not a chatzitza. Make sure one could table the vessel the way it is. For example, a Lennox dish, the little insignia, a nice little oval sticker that says Lennox. So since that sticker, that emblem is part of the chashivas of the vessel, it's considered to be nullified to the vessel, and therefore it's not considered to be a chatzitza. Just like, for example, on an automobile, you're not going to say that the insignia on the front of the car that's sticking out to show what kind of vessel car it is. It's a fancy car. That's not an extra part of the vessel. That's part of the beauty of the vessel, right? It's part of the display. That's what convinces people to spend X amount of dollars on the vessel or on the car. So over here, the beauty of the vessel is such, it has it, therefore wouldn't be a chatzitza. But if something you don't want to have there, right? You buy a new car, they have the MSRP sticker, right? Stuck on the, people take it off when they buy it because it's not part of the vessel, not part of the car. When it comes to koshering, there are differences. You can kosher a vessel in parts. Let's say I have a very large vessel. If they have a vessel the size of this table, and the pot I have is only 2/3 the size of this table, right? So I can take the table and dip it into the vessel more than halfway on one side, turn it over and put it in more than halfway the other side. That way I got everything immersed and it becomes a kosher vessel. When it comes to tevilah, it has to be a total immersion. The entire vessel has to go into the mikveh all at once for it to be a valid tevilah. So all parts of the vessel have to be in the water at one time, without leaving a tiny remnant outside the vessel at all. A large vessel that cannot physically fit into the mikveh in one time, you cannot tevel it in parts. There are other things you can do, such as the vessel becomes unusable and rebuilt by a Jew. It would avoid the chiyuv of tevilah. There are other things to deal with, but you cannot actually tevel such a vessel in a mikveh unless it can get fully immersed. Any questions?
When you have a coffee machine and it has a plastic thing that you can take out, you also need to throw that out.
Plastic does not need tevilah, excuse me. Does not need tevilah. Some people have a minute to do it l'chumra. Does not, for sure you don't make a bracha though. Talking about even non-throwaway plastic, it does not need tevilah. Some people have a minute to be machmer to do it. Tevilas Kelim chatzoyin, teveling a vessel halfway. Oh, we just did that one. Tevilas bakbuk, teveling a bottle. Bakbuk shepiv tsar. A bottle that has a narrow neck. You have to put into the water, to leave it there until the water goes into all parts of the vessel. Don't take a vessel, let's say for example, this will be my vessel, and if I go this way down, opening down, I'm trapping water inside the vessel. I'm making an air pocket there. Don't insert the vessel with the mouth of the vessel being pointed downwards. But then the water will not envelop all parts of the inside of the vessel. That's not a proper tevilah. The vessel has to be opened in the way in which it's used, in order that the water can envelop all parts. For example, what they call a pocket knife, a foldable knife. You have to open it. It's metal, right? So if I'm going to use it, let's say, to cut meat or to cut foods, I need to table it, but you table it in the open position. So you open up all the different positions in a way where they're all spread out like a fan, then you table it. Din Yodis Akli, the din of the handle of a vessel. Even the handle of a vessel has to be tabled in water. It has to be cleaned, free of any chatzitza. There's no difference between if the material, if the handle is made from something that needs tvila or from material that doesn't need tvila. For example, if it's made from wood or plastic, if it's attached to the vessel, it needs to be tabled because it's considered to be part of the vessel. Did I tell you the story about? I'm trying to remember what happened with. What did happen with? I don't remember. One of the Gedolei Yisrael, one of the great Torah sages, he went to table his vessels out of Pesach, and he was tabled by the ocean. And along came a wave and swept away his vessels. At Erev Pesach, he's stuck without any vessels. So he was happy, he was glad. The next year, he came again to table his vessels, his new vessels, and he successfully did that. And a wave came and swept up his old vessels and got them back. And he was sad. So the student said to him, he said the expression, Torah, Rebbe, our master teacher, it's Torah. Elucidate to us. Tell us, what's the reason that Rebbe was happy a year ago when the vessels were lost, and now a year later, when the vessels that were lost last year have been retrieved to come back? Rebbe is sad. He says, last year, when my vessels got swept away out of Pesach, I knew that my mazel could not get any worse. So I was happy. I knew things would only get better. But when they came back to me, and they were swept back out of Pesach, last year's vessels came back to me, I knew that things couldn't get any better. So I was feeling a little down. It's an expression from the Tevilas Kelim, which can give a person strength. He says that a person that feels like they're at the bottom of the barrel, the only way they can go is up. Also a mimer. There's a mimer from the Adar, from the Tevilas Kelim. The pasuk says, if a person is a time of distress for Jacob, and from it they'll be saved. So in the mimer, I believe it's in the contrastion from the Tevilas Kelim. The Rebbe asked the question, the pasuk could have written, there's a time of distress for Jacob, and they'll be saved. Why does the pasuk say and from it they'll be saved? Seems to be extra. They're just saying they'll be saved. They're going through a very difficult thing. They're going through difficulty or a struggle, and they'll be saved. Why they'll be saved from it? The Rebbe says that based on the Yaakov Mena Yibashaya, the word tzara, he says in the Maimer, tzara means struggle, troubles. It's the same letters as tzoyar, which means light. The Avodah is to take from the tzara and make tzoyar, make light. From the darkness, make light. Me'ayin yavi ezri. Where's my salvation going to come from? Me'ayin. When a person feels nothingness, they totally let go, then they connect to Hashem, and it comes. So at the lowest point is when the salvation is going to come. Hopefully sooner, but that's when there's a sense of letting go. Anyway, so this is just reminds me of that story with the vessels. I think it happened with the smog. I don't remember. Anyway, okay, I heard the story once. Okay, now, what about a vessel that's made from many different things? It's made from many different parts. Maybe it's kind of possible, like a grinder, a meat grinder. So how is that? How is that meant to be toivel? Toivel atbila ba'edi murkov in kol chalakav k'derech shimush. It's better to toivel it when all the parts are together and it's all assembled the way it is, the way it's used. But one can also toivel it when all the parts are separate. When one's actually toiveling the vessel, one should be mindful not to hold on to the vessel too tight. If you hold it too tight, then what's happening is that your hand is preventing the water from totally enveloping the vessel. There's two ways to deal with this. One way to deal with it is to get your hand wet with the mikvah water first. But the more easy way is just to hold it softly. Then the water is going to go through. Just like there's a concept to be careful. There shouldn't be a chatzitz on the vessel. We should be careful by the tefillah. Don't hold on to the vessel in a tight fashion. Then the water will not go between your hand and the vessel. Hold on to it in a soft manner. As much as possible. However, if a person immersed their hand in the mikvah before actually holding on to the vessel, then we don't have to be concerned about a chatzitza, because the mikvah water will then touch all parts of the vessel. Another third option would be to change the position of your hand holding the vessel while the vessel's in the water. Through doing so, the vessel will get totally immersed in the water. So let's say, for example, I'm going to take this cup, I'm putting it into the water, it's under the water, it's in the mikvah, and I go like that. So now the vessel's going to get totally immersed. That's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Plastic. You have to take plastic.
No. There's no chiyuv to table plastic, even non-throwaway plastic. Some people are machmer to toivel it, and even though they're machmer to toivel it, they do so without a bracha. So people could be machmer to do it, but without a bracha. That's not a chiyuv. One more halacha which we can do to wrap it up. When toiveling things like silverware, so you have a lot of different pieces. So you can get a perforated basket and line the silverware on the basket in such a way that it's not tightly packed. If it's tightly packed, we're concerned that the water's not going to get through. If it's spread sparsely, it's okay. You can put it into a perforated basket, and to table it that way. Don't pile up the vessels, meaning the utensils one on top of the other, the silverware. Because maybe one's going to give pressure on the other. The water is not going to get enveloped. It's going to be a chatzis. Put it one next to the other. Someone could put the kelim in the mikvah. They chevel through a string. One has to be careful. That the string should be soft and not tight. In order that the water should be able to go from under it. Next week, Mitzvah, we're going to get into the halacha. If a vessel needs to be kashered and also toiveled, you're supposed to first kasher, then toivel it. There's an order of business, so to speak. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you. Good Shabbos. I was asking about the plastics because my sister, a while ago, she had a baby, and my mom got excited. So she went to IKEA. And she said, "I'm getting a lot of cups and plates for baby, like just a collar, and like 4 packages, and then
Yeah.
wait." we also got other dishes. We're going to the I'm like, I don't think we have to play with the baby dishes. She said, we do. I swear we do. So we went and we used the perforated basket. And I felt like I was hauling fishing nets,
Yeah.
But of course, it was tiny plasticware. So it all fell through the holes.
Oh, wow.
And the cups were floating away and we had to go fishing.
Does he have to?
We didn't have to do that. Okay.
If it, again, it's a chumrah. But certainly we don't make the bracha unless you're tevling metal as well. Then you can make the bracha on the metal. No problem.
Al aeropuerto, pero dice, pensé que hubo una hora de dirección. ¿Por qué? No sé, tardaban y había dos personas para todo el vuelo. Entonces, tipo horrible. Ah, Chile me trajo un bircón para la carrera. Un bircón para hacer el pero vamos a lo puedo ver a... Iba a poner medio plata en la tele. ¿Para qué puedo estar por el banco? Y te lo puedo buscar. Sí, en España. Ahí que ver. Ahí puedo buscar en vivo. Rojas y también de pasta. Después todo lo bueno es que no está cocinando, porque queda un montón de viejas seguro. Entonces solo lo recalienta y listo. Ay, relajada. Para bien. Okay. Mucha gente me está diciendo, está muy distinto ese físico. ¿Por qué? No sé qué significa decir. No, pero bueno, eso no. También cosas ya. Lo bueno es que mis amigas me iban a la casa. Tipo, si estamos igual, y si viste cuando hay tipo de chicas, que no me buscarán, que se van a la mamá, y que no me las invitar así, para que, si está bien, pues se cuentan mucho. ¿Qué chicas fijas? Sí, había habido cambios que tipo, había todo acá, como por 3 días. Ay, Dios. Yo estaba tipo, es que bailé mucho. Dice que ya regresamos, fíjate. Tipo, yo re quería venir acá. Y me dijeron, mira que en Puri me dieron la tormenta y no sé qué. Y yo viajé después de Puri, o ya después. No, no puede haber una tormenta porque yo tengo que estar acá. Ah, sí, que por eso se suponía que iba a llevar. Pero está tipo súper limpia en la calle, como sin nieve. Tipo, por lo menos, o sea, cuando estaba acá era que caminaba tipo a uno. Ahora pueden ir 2 o 3 personas juntas caminando al lado. Literal, le dije como, no sé, le dije, ay, ahora podemos ir 3 personas caminando, tipo. Ay, no, ¿y a dónde vas, güey? Hoy en la noche voy de Miriam el día. Ah, sí, sí, y con su amiga Mary. Y mañana conoces, no todavía. Pero conoces a Mariano Hoffman, es argentino. Bueno, yo le escribí a Mariano porque no podía. Y me dice, no, que veo igual, no sé qué, pero no estoy segura. Y que pero no, porque tiene la familia. Y esa poco va. Entonces pasa Mariano de como Chile y herida. con Mayan, sí. O sea, Mayan me encontró, pero con la poner, no sé si Mayan viene a hablar, pero no sé, como que me dijo, vos podría ser, pero creo que vos eres el que yo,